discussion as when that topic happens to be Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast number 197. This is the one about knowledge of versus knowledge in Jeet Kune Do. As you're logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button and feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast. If you're catching the simulcast over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. And if you'd like to support the program, please visit jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you'll see stuff like this. The inestimable JKD Notables coffee mug, also available as an art item of clothing. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Broadcasting 2 hours early today because we got some stuff going on later today and over the weekend. So let me sum up right at the beginning, give you my conclusion so that you can just hear this and then you can go about your business. Since Jeet Kune Do is based on aliveness, if you weren't there when whatever happened and you were not on the receiving end of the person's explanation of what happened or their answers to questions about what happened, then you really don't know, and you really don't qualify as such to talk about it. Instead, you should probably just focus on doing your best with what you do know, for sure, and what you are learning. See, sometimes we forget when we hear people pontificating on Jeet Kune Do, and I'm included in this. When we hear people pontificating on Jeet Kune Do, very often it's their opinion that they're given. And fortunately or unfortunately, I guess it depends on if what that person is saying validates or invalidates your own personal opinion, then sometimes those opinions are taken as almost gospel. For example, if you were to read or hear that Linda Lee, or anyone else for that matter, had a problem with how Jeet Kune Do was being taught over the years after Bruce Lee's death, you could end up thinking that that's actually true because you know that she was Bruce Lee's wife. So it kind of makes sense, right? She was Bruce Lee's wife, so she must still be involved in Jeet Kune Do. But then you have to ask yourself, did you ever see or hear anything about this, about Linda Lee's opinion on Jeet Kune Do before people started talking about the whys and the wherefores of the creation of the Jeet Kune Do nucleus? Did you ever hear anything about Linda Lee actively continuing her training with anyone? Did you hear anything about Linda Lee's involvement with the teaching of the art in any way? Was she keeping, let's say, keeping tabs on different instructors, right? Or was she keeping tabs on the development of martial art, especially Jeet Kune Do? Were there any magazine articles about her continued involvement in Jeet Kune Do? Now, understand this, right? When I ask these questions, this is not at all a knock on Linda Lee. Instead, this is me asking you to question what others have said about her. Another example is when you hear that Dan Inosanto kept adding styles to Jeet Kune Do, but you can't find anything of Inosanto himself saying or writing that the adding of styles is his approach to Jeet Kune Do. Then you should question what it is that you're hearing. You should question what it is that you're being told. Now, I know that there are people who will go, no, there's a video where he says, welcome to the Jeet Kune Do blend. And what he's doing is adding styles. And because he's mentioning this art, this art, this art, and he says, here's the Jeet Kune Do blend. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you look at the postcard for today's broadcast, you'll see that there is a ton, I mean, more than a ton of Jeet Kune Do information out there. So there is definitely a lot of knowledge of Jeet Kune Do because of that. That's the evidence right there. But knowledge in Jeet Kune Do is a thing which occurs um, through or because of a lot of practice in the art of Jeet Kune Do. So it's not necessarily dependent on a lot of knowledge of Jeet Kune Do, as in having multiple copies of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, or having a copy of every Bruce Lee magazine ever printed. If during the so let me try to give you an example. If during the course of your training you make an observation that there's a certain distance at which kicking seems to be the most practical thing, or punching or trapping or grappling, right? But in that particular moment, your observation is that there's this distance, this range at which kicking seems to be the most practical thing to do. Then you might say something like, okay, so when you're at kicking range, this and this and this. Now, that phrase, when you're at kicking range, let's say there's four phrases, right? So at some point you say, okay, so when you're at punching range, this. When you're at trapping range, this. And when you're at grappling range, this. So this is happening because you're actively involved in training. So this is phraseology that you use. Well, let's say that phrase used at a particular moment to express a particular idea, to express a particular principle, concept, guideline, whatever. In the aliveness of the situation, that phrase catches on. So other people start using it, and sounds pretty good. Everybody understands in the situation, in the moment, what it is that's being said. And so it's perpetuated. And then it ends up in written form as a thing called the four ranges of combat. What I'm trying to explain is, you see how something that now becomes solid, let's say, because now it's written, now it's cataloged, now it's categorized, or what have you. But it was born out of the aliveness of a situation, the aliveness of a particular moment. So it ends up becoming part of the lexicon of Jeet Kune Do, let's call it. Years later, you have somebody coming along saying, "Oh, but Bruce Lee never taught four ranges. There's nothing in his writings about four ranges or whatever. Bruce Lee just talked about three ranges." And so the accusation then is made that JKD history is being rewritten, and that there are people who are teaching stuff that is not actually JKD, right? That is their own creation or what have you. And the insinuation is that these people are deliberately attempting to change stuff, right? This is part of a larger argument about people trying to change stuff. When it was in the moment, it grew out of that, but it was in the moment. See, so this is the thing about knowledge in versus knowledge of. So you can have a copy, it'd be 50 years old now. You could have an original copy of the 1971 September, October, whatever, Black Belt magazine it was, with the famous "Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate" article. And you might even be aware that there were several drafts of that article before the final version was decided upon. Possessing that original magazine doesn't help you if you have no understanding of what it is that Bruce Lee wrote. So if Bruce Lee said, "Let it be understood once and for all that I have not invented a new style, not invented a composite or any modification of anything. I have in no way set Jeet Kune Do as within a distinct form from this or from that," right? With laws that distinguish it from this or that method. On the contrary, I hope to free my comrades from bondage to styles, bondage to patterns, bondage to doctrines, including even his own doctrines. All right. So imagine if this definitive, this finalized, chosen version of the Liberate article, that draft. Imagine if that was written up after a training session had just finished, or a conversation in which something had happened to give Bruce Lee that final exact wording. And so Bruce Lee decides, yeah, okay, this is what I want to say, and it's influenced by something that happened a few minutes ago. Now, what you have is another situation in which knowledge in Jeet Kune Do gets written down, becomes solid, because 50 years later, I'm talking to you about a line from that article. But Bruce Lee, in that 50 years ago, goes off thinking that he has explained himself, and that he has done what he can to make sure that his comrades, his followers, never become intellectually bound by style, intellectually bound by pattern, intellectually bound by doctrine. But that doesn't seem to be the case, does it? Right? Um, so I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. One of the most important things Bruce Lee ever said about Jeet Kune Do was this: I am not interested with the term itself. I am interested in its effect of liberation when Jeet Kune Do is used as a mirror for self-examination. So, what say you? Do you think that, do you get what I'm saying about knowledge of versus knowledge in? Or did I just muddy the waters even more for you? Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's all I got to say about this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. On Friday, there's no Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode, but next Friday, the 22nd, we'll have a double header. Calm Woolley of the United Kingdom will be on at 2 p.m. And then William Hurst of Alberta, Canada, he'll come on at 6 p.m. All right, today's a pastel day, so Bruce Van Gogh. Right, so I'll see some of you next week for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. See you soon. Stay safe. Talk soon. Take care.